They want us to feel hopeless. This new algorithm wants us to feel hopeless. Why is it that my primary was permanently banned? Why? Because I positioned a recognition of sources in American history that justify that the federal isn't always above the state, right? Which would result in what? The state is capable of acting maximum against the federal. A follower from Blue Sky just told me that her account was banned for 3 days for linking the general strike link, right? They want us to feel powerless, but we are not. Only in their control of the algorithm are they capable of denying the actual solutions, right? Which I'm not going to touch upon here, or I'm going to get banned again. 18K followers, and for what? They didn't give me a strike, they didn't give me a warning, they just, ban me, which is fine because I guess I'm going somewhere, right? Because ultimately, if I wasn't actually speaking on intellectual truth, then they wouldn't want to censor me. Yet, here I am, right? The recognition that we do have power, right? If the federal does not have power when it comes to Democrats, what kind of power do we have? That is the state. That is the funding. It's funny because Trump freezes Chicago transit funding, yet who is it who funds this, extortion? It is blue states. The day that the blue states say no more will we be funding our own oppression, that is the day in which we will have leverage against this federal government, right? But since we don't want to do that, because obviously there's going to be consequences, and people say, well, the federal's above the state. If that is true, why is that? The clarity of that through our founding fathers, Alexander Hamilton, all of that got me permanently banned from this application on my primary account, right? It's because I'm getting somewhere, right? I'm getting to some truth of our actual solutions, right? Because unprecedented crisis allows for unprecedented solutions, and those unprecedented solutions are blueprinted within American theory. Yes, that is originalism, because while they say that originalism is an argument that supports the conservative, agenda, there's also originalism that negates it. They didn't think anyone would actually look at the sources. I did, and because of that, my primary got in trouble, right? But ultimately, it doesn't change that I'm right. This government could take me out today and I'll still be right, because it's within our sources that the federal isn't always above the state. And until our governors, the state commander-in-chiefs, recognize this instead of leaving it to the local officials, which the local officials do not have the amount of power that the state officials would have against the federal, right? So it's a cop-out to leave it to the local when in fact it should be the state under the emergency executive powers, right? But they don't want to experience the consequences, but yet they are, right? From California to Illinois to, Oregon. We're experiencing these consequences, but it's up to us how cooked we are. We'd see what happened in Illinois. They went to an apartment complex. They didn't care if they were immigrants or not. They said if you have a warrant, you're not going to leave, right? Because what Scott has said was that if you look not American, if you don't look white, then obviously you can be treated as a non-citizen, right? But there's white immigrants, but that doesn't matter because what they want is a restoration of that supremacy, right? So ultimately, we have to move outside tradition because what they're depending on is you agreeing that the federal is always above the state, which is untrue.